It is time for Media Watch now. James Creedon is here with a roundup, James, of everything that has been going on in France today. Let's start with the cabinet reshuffle then. It was delayed and then it was delayed again. He finally got round to it today. And the big news is his spokesman and very close ally, Christophe Castaner, not someone with a great deal of experience in security and policing, well, no experience in fact.
Right.
He's the Interior Minister now.
He's the Interior Minister, and it finally came. I think that's the kind of point I'll start with. That this reshuffle was weeks in the coming. That's almost unheard of. Usually when you have ministers stepping to one side, there's a replacement pretty fast. So it was an indication that Emmanuel Macron had some difficulty filling those roles. He doesn't have an established political party behind him with a lot of kind of established politicians that you can draw from. It's a composition of kind of some former left-wingers, some traditional conservatives. And so to try to find people who will be loyal to him is not that easy a task. Now, actually, before we get to the reactions, this was him speaking just a while ago. You were talking about it a little bit earlier in the programme. He addressed the nation at 8 p.m. Paris time. And just to take a look at what some opinion pieces were saying today in the run-up, in the run-up to this reshuffle, but even in the run-up to this address, is it's time for some humility, Mr. President. Now, what he's been criticised for chiefly since the Benalla scandal this summer, when his chief of security was found to have been involved in essentially illegal activities, assisting the police while he's not a police officer during May Day protests and whatnot. And the management of that was seen to be somewhat aloof and arrogant. Emmanuel Macron didn't speak for 5 or 6 days. When he eventually did address what had become a huge scandal, he did so within the confines of his own party faithful. So a lot of people felt that he was behaving in an aloof, monarchical manner and that it was time for him to exercise some humility. And actually, that's what he did this evening. A lot of people reading in between the lines said this was a very dramatic speech by Emmanuel Macron. Je vous ai compris. I have heard you. And essentially that was, I have heard the criticism that was coming again and again and again from different sources.
And
that
he must be referring to those
arrogant
approval ratings as well.
That's right. But also, for example, one of the reasons that Gérard Collomb, the Interior Minister, stepped down is he didn't even make it.
Listening to the people around him.
Right, he didn't make a secret of it. He spoke on the media several times, saying that he felt that the president was, distant and aloof.
Of the French presidency, isn't it? The very post invites aloofness.
That's right.
You're in a monarchical role.
That's it. You're in a palace. You live in a palace, and security concerns. You can't really hang out with the people that often.
Hollande managed it quite well.
Well, there seems to be a consensus in any case in the reactions to his 8 p.m. address that he was contrite. That what's the French for contrite? After his reshuffle, Macron seems to reset the tone and acknowledge his missteps. So that's kind of the tone he was trying to set, and the reshuffle was the moment that he was choosing to, I suppose, address the nation and try to press the reset button, if you like, and shore up the falling confidence and poll ratings. This was yesterday in the Express newspaper in the UK. Macron government reshuffle postponed again, and there was a huge degree of impatience about this. And because really from the beginning of his presidency, he has sort of cast himself as somebody who determined the timing of changes, of reforms and whatnot. Le maître des horloges, as he was termed in France. In other words, kind of, he who was pulling all the strings. But actually, that's really not how a lot of people feel that he is managing things anymore. And while he explained that he was busy and therefore he didn't want to rush this reshuffle, a lot of the editorial writers felt that this was the maître des horloges, or the master of timing, who would become a sort of somebody who was more like not so much a clock but an hourglass. In other words, drip, drip, drip. It was all becoming very slow and unconvincing. Jean-Luc Mélenchon yesterday saying that this constant delaying of the reshuffle showed a collapse in the authority of the presidency. So a lot of people feeling that collapse of the authority of the presidency has benefited actually the Prime Minister, Edouard Philippe, who came out of this strengthened, in fact, in many senses. It's a weird system in France where you've got the president but also the Prime Minister, and it's a sort of a tandem or a tag team. And really, I think the government functioning well in a stable manner relies on that tag team functioning in a very coherent way. And there's a lot of whispering basically saying that it actually doesn't function all that smoothly anymore, and that they were in opposition about a lot of the key posts in the new cabinet. In fact, François Hollande, it's about 60 years since the French Constitution was founded, the Fifth Republic. A lot of people asking in the last couple of weeks, should the French Republic and the way it's structured evolve and change? And what François Hollande said is, you know what, if I were were to change anything, it wouldn't be moving towards a sixth republic or a parliamentary system. I'd get rid of the Prime Minister. The Prime Minister's role is a sort of a doubling over of the authority, and in fact it detracts from or just takes away from the authority of the President. So certainly
the President gets more involved with the day-to-day running of government. And you mentioned Jean-Luc Mélenchon. He's had his own problems today, hasn't he?
He was searched. His home and the party headquarters were searched. This is the very loud, somewhat charismatic. Everybody's an opinion on him, Jean-Luc Mélenchon, and he's the head of the far left party. In any case, his home was checked in a corruption probe led by the France's anti-corruption office. This is to do with perhaps European Parliament money being used to pay national staff. Just sort of
what Marine Le Pen got into trouble.
That's right. In any case, he published the whole thing on his live feed.
He's very good on social
media. And he was saying,
"Don't
touch me. I'm a kind of a sacred person. I'm a parliamentarian. I am the Republic," he said.
Got above the law.
And he said, "Am I going to end up like Lula now? Are you going to put me in prison? Am I a political target?" His whole point was the timing of this raid on the day of the cabinet reshuffle was a political decision. Now, the Justice Ministry said absolute rubbish. This was the Paris prosecutor's office. It was nothing to do with us. It was not a political decision. But he did get the support of, for example, the head of Podemos in Spain, saying the day where Macron, and he's tweeted in French actually, the day when Macron is facing a crisis in his government, the police arrives in the far left party leader's office. So he even has, his equivalents in other European countries kind of echoing his concerns that this could be a political
I like
decision.
How he compared himself to Lula. That is very Mélenchoniste, isn't it? Very quickly, why are Christophe Castanet's neighbours happy that he's moving out of his apartment?
This is so bizarre, right? Lara Marlowe, who is the Paris correspondent for the Irish Times, she must be a neighbour of Christophe Castanet, who had a grace and favour apartment in the 7th arrondissement, right? And she said the new Interior Minister keeps a pet rooster in his garden.
Oh.
Now, that was actually a gift from...
Paris?
Yes. The rooster wakes the entire neighbourhood before dawn. We sent Castanet a recipe for coq au vin.
Oh, good.
With a bottle of red wine. He didn't get the hint. Hope the bird goes with him to Place Beauvau, which is the Interior Ministry.
Excellent, James. As always, very good. Thank you very much indeed, James Creedon.
Thanks,